Hello to Pioneer viewers, how are you doing? I hope you're healthy and well. Today I will again convey the developments related to the last day of the Russia-Ukraine war. According to the latest reports, we see that the struggle between the Russian army and the Ukrainian army continues intensively on the Kherson front line and the Donetsk front line. In addition, the storm in the recent days is also affecting the front line quite severely. We have discussed the developments regarding the effects of this storm in our reports on the agenda. The impact of this storm, especially on the Crimean peninsula, is quite deep. It is reported that the Russian fortifications in the Crimean peninsula have been severely damaged due to the recent storm. In addition, the clashes on the Kherson front line and the Donetsk front line are also deepening. So what is the latest situation on the front line? Let's take a look at the developments together. As the Pioneer, we continue to convey the Russia-Ukraine war to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications in order to miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the video. Let's start if you're ready, the Pioneer reports. We start by analyzing the latest developments on the Kherson front line. We also mentioned it in our agenda report. The storm that hit the Crimean peninsula will worsen the situation of the Russian troops on the Kherson front line in the coming days. Ukrainian armed forces are trying to advance thanks to the bombardment. When we look at the latest reports, we see that the shelling of the Ukrainian troops in the region is quite strong. There is intense shelling, especially in the Poima direction. Artillery units of the Ukrainian armed forces are intensively attacking Russian positions. There is no border change in the region yet. However, the continuation of the bombardment in the region is of a great importance in terms of the disintegration of the positions of the Russian army. When we look at it, we see that the border changes occur after the process when the intensity of these bombardments increases. The Ukrainian troops will make new advances in the coming days. I've said many times that the situation on the Kherson front line is very serious for the Russian army. You may be tired of these statements, but this situation is really problematic. Russian troops are facing difficult situations. Our sources, who share reports from the region, often express this situation. We see that the Russian armed forces are carrying out artillery activity in the region. However, these activities are still not enough. Short-range Russian artillery is still not capable of driving the Ukrainian armed forces out of their positions. We also observe intensive Russian attacks on the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in the direction of Crimean. Aerial bombardments is also actively involved. However, despite this, the Russian armed forces again failed to clear Ukrainian positions. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to hold their positions on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. The bridgeheads of the Ukrainian armed forces in the area are still the place. Let us continue with the artillery activity in the region. According to the latest reports, Russian artillery units targeted Kherson and the Crimean regions. On the contrary, artillery units of the Ukrainian armed forces targeted positions of the Russian armed forces in the direction of Dniepriani, Oleshki, Olapristan, Pechenivka, Poima, and Perestepny. Now let's briefly look at the latest developments on the Zaporizhia front line. As you know, in recent days, this region has been greatly reduced in intensity. We see that the Ukrainian armed forces are still defending their positions in the Robotny. From time to time, there are attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces to expand their positions in the direction of Verbov. However, these attacks do not make much sense. We can consider them as daily routine mutual clashes. There is a similar situation in the Vuhledar region. There are no developments on the Vuhledar front line other than routine clashes between the two armies. Now let's continue by analyzing the latest developments on the Donetsk front line. As you know, there is an intense Russian pressure in the region. There are reports that the storm also hit Russian troops on the Donetsk front line. However, these reports have not yet been confirmed. When we look at the latest reports, the Russian armed forces on the Donetsk front line carried out offensive operations near Novomikhailovka, in Mariinka and Severnoye. However, these offensive operations did not change the borderline. Russian troops, supported by long-range weapons, launched intensive attacks on the southeastern part of Avdiivka. According to latest reports, during these attacks, Russian troops managed to enter the industrial zone side. There is also a tactical Russian advance from the Krutaya Balka side. In response, the Ukrainian armed forces launched an offensive against Russian positions near the railway lines near Stepnoe. The Ukrainian armed forces have had limited success in the aftermath of this offensive. This victory does not change the fate in this region. However, considering the difficult situation in the region for the Ukrainian armed forces, it is possible to say that this victory will provide great morale to the Ukrainian army. Let's continue with the artillery activity in the region. According to the latest reports, Russian artillery units targeted positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in Kherson, New York, and Yuzhnoye. In turn, artillery units of the Ukrainian armed forces targeted positions of the Russian armed forces in the Donetsk, Opitny, Kamenka, and Krasnohorivka. Now let's continue our report by analyzing the latest developments on the Bakhmut front line. As you know, there has been increasing Russian pressure on the southern flank of the Bakhmut front line in recent days. Ukrainian armed forces are trying to break this pressure on the one hand. On the other hand, it aimed to seize new positions. According to the latest reports, the Russian armed forces are conducting offensive operations near Andriivka on the northwestern outskirts of Klishchivka and east of Kharkov. In the direction of Kharkov, Russian troops have captured some positions. However, in other areas, the Ukrainian armed forces are still holding their positions. In addition, the dominant hills advantage near Klishchivka is still under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces. There is also a slight movement on the Luhansk front line. According to the latest reports, near Sinkovka, in the north, the Russian armed forces, supported by long-range weapons, have managed to seize new positions. However, they suffered a lot of losses in order to capture these positions. Local sources say that there are still quite strong defense lines of the Ukrainian armed forces here. On the other hand, counter-clashes continue in Sherbyansky forest near Dibrova. It is also among the information coming at us that the Russian troops faced heavy losses during these clashes in the region. What do you think? How do you think the situation on the Kherson front line be shaped? Do you think the Ukrainian troops will be able to advance further in the region? What's your opinion about the inactivity on the Zaporizhia front line? Do you think the Ukrainian army will be able to regain control of the Donetsk front line? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.